Assalamu alaikum. This is Sunday Times and today we are here with Chairman Imran Khan, PTI, and we're going to ask him a few questions and you're going to get to know him a little bit better. And a very important question for me is, what would you like the youth of Pakistan, as in the young men and women, to learn from your experience and what you're doing right now?
That life is life without struggle is a waste of human potential, number one. And it's struggle what makes people grow and evolve and discover their potential, which all of us have. And struggle in the right direction. So when I was young, much younger, my mother used to make me pray at night that Allah show me the right way, show us the right path. And when I was growing up, all my heroes, while I would pray for the right path, but all my heroes were on the wrong path. All the role models were film actors and pop stars and sports stars. So while we grew up thinking that the right path is the boring path, the real path is the other one. But through my own experience, I actually realized that what I used to think was the glamorous and exciting path, actually, most of the people, because with my experience, I managed to see all sides of lives. And I realized that I understood the wisdom of the straight path, because the straight path sometimes is much more difficult, but there is inner contentment and peace. The other path outwardly is glamorous, but inside it is torment. I've seen people tormented. I've seen people devastated by that life, nervous breakdowns, alcoholism, addiction, broken families. So it's only later in my life I began to understand the difference between the two paths.
Who is someone you would, ask young people of Pakistan and generally to look up to and take inspiration from?
Well, Arshad Sharif, right now, he's someone who the young people in this country should admire, because he was threatened. He knew his life was in danger. He left the country not because he was scared like Nawaz Sharif. He left the country because they had choked his voice. He was standing up for what he believed to be the truth. He was exposing this whole regime change conspiracy. And he knew what he was up against, mafias and powerful establishment who he was criticizing. So therefore, to speak the truth, not deviate from the path of standing up for justice and actually giving his life in that cause. For me, if I was a young aspiring journalist or young Pakistani, I would look up to people like him, because these are heroes that give life to a society. Like Imam Hussain, his martyrdom gave for centuries Muslim societies were renewed by the great martyrdom, where for the path of truth he sacrificed his life. Similarly, throughout history of mankind, these individuals give life to a human society. And right now, for me, Arshad Sharif is that hero.
What is a unique quality you think a leader should have or should embody or should emanate? Like when you see somebody, you say, yes, this person can be a good leader or a just leader.
So he has to have four qualities. In my opinion, all great leaders have four qualities. And all the messengers of Allah, all the prophets were leaders. The greatest leader of all time we consider our own Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So there are 4 qualities. Number 1, their mission is above the self. They have won the Jihad-e Akbar, which is against the self. Controlling your ego is the most important thing, because that's what releases your potential. So always great human beings have a vision beyond the self, like Qaid-e-Azam, like Mandela. Mandela was not fighting for some political career, but for a great cause, for justice, for all the races in South Africa. And Qaid-e-Azam was fighting for Pakistan, knowing he was not going to survive. So it wasn't for personal power. And throughout history, leaders have, their vision is always above the self, number 1. Number 2, they are always truthful, because they command respect. Sadiq or Ameen. So our Prophet's 2 great qualities was Sadiq and Ameen, means the truthful and fair and just. Because a leader, if he's not truthful, he doesn't have the credibility and doesn't command respect. And if he's not fair, then again, people don't respect him, because he must command respect. He must not demand respect. And then he must have courage. A cowardly leader is a contradiction in terms. He must. So these are the 4 qualities.
What is one quote that you feel you would always tell your children and other people's children to keep in mind when they're taking decisions or moving on to a bigger milestone in their life? What is one quote that they should consider?
I tell my children that the greatest impediment in a human being achieving his potential is fear. Fear is something. I have seen cricketers far more talented than me, but they failed. They never achieved their potential because they were either scared of failure, or they were batsmen who were scared of fast bowlers, or so on. And throughout, politicians who are scared of taking a stand, standing up, like journalists like Arshad Sharif. Anyone who reaches the top and achieves his potential, he must be able to control his fear. And there's a verse in the Quran, those who have faith, Allah removes their fears. And so this is the most important thing. If this verse of the Quran for the youth is the most, for me, those who have faith, Allah removes their fears. Because, classic case I keep citing is of Edmund Hillary, the first man who climbed Mount Everest. All before him had either, most of them had died, or they had failed, given up. So logic meant that he had no chance. Either he was going to die or he was going to fail. So he had to conquer both fears, the fear of failure and the fear of death. That's why he will always be remembered as the first man to climb Everest. So in anything in life, this fear is the biggest impediment in your potential.
How do you fight your fear? What is one thing you can do to develop that strength to fight your fear?
Just like, faith removes your fears, because according to our belief in the Quran, life and death is in Allah's hands. Risk, the amount you earn in life, livelihood is in Allah's hands. We can strive, we can struggle, but eventually how much you earn or your livelihood is in Allah's hands, just like your life. And respect and humiliation. People are scared of being humiliated, so they don't take chances in life. So they don't take risks in life. Fear stops you taking risks. And I have never known a top businessman who has not taken the risk of losses. There's no soldier, no great general who's ever earned medals who hasn't controlled the risk of death. And similarly, sportsmen, all great sportsmen eventually conquer their fear of failure.
So how do you keep your strength and how do you keep yourself, happy and positive because like you're here all day, you're so exhausted, you're hardly eating anything. That's another question I want to ask, like what do you eat when you're here? So how do you keep yourself going? Like how do you manage your stress or...
Look, it's the goal. It's your vision. If I was doing this for a career, I would have given up 26 years ago. In fact, I can't imagine politics as a career. I think if someone told me that, have politics as a career, I would put a gun to my head. Because it is the most, it makes no sense, to go around asking for votes and, just so that you can become a minister or something. So for me, there are two reasons why people do politics. One is career politician. And if you look all over the world, they don't command respect from the people because they're hypocritical. They talk about serving the people and actually they're serving themselves, and therefore all over the world they're looked down upon. On the other hand, when politics is for a mission, then you follow the path of all the prophets of God. All the messages were in a sense political. But then it becomes sacred when you're actually doing it for a mission, which is what Qaid-e-Azam did. Why do we, if it is our belief that respect and humiliation are from Allah, then why do we respect Qaid-e-Azam? And we will always, because he wasn't doing it for himself. And similarly, Mandela will always be respected in South Africa because he sacrificed 27 years of his life in prison for the people of South Africa. And throughout all the great Sufis of the subcontinent, hundreds and thousands of people every year visit their shrines. Why? Because they came for humanity. So there are two types. And so in my opinion, if I was doing this for myself, then I would have, as I said, got tired 26 years ago. But this is for a bigger cause, for justice and freedom. Justice gives people freedom. Why all the prophets stood for justice? All prophets of God, they came for justice. Whether it was Hazrat Musa against the Pharaoh, whether it was Hazrat Ibrahim against Nimrud, whether it was Jesus, Hazrat Isa against the Roman imperialists and the Jewish elite, they were always fighting for justice, freedom to speak, to have their views, and they stood for all of them stood for justice. So justice is the most important thing that gives freedom to human beings. And societies that have justice, they prosper. So all the societies in the world today which have rule of law, justice means rule of law. Justice means everyone equal before law.
What is that one thing that gives you energy when you wake up in the morning and says, today I have to do this because when I look at this or when I think about this or this is a thought process that I have, this is my intention for the day. What is that one thing that gives you that energy?
Purpose, which is this mission which I've been on 26 years. So I wake up every morning and I have a plan. When I was in government, there were so many crises, so I had to wake up in the morning and think, now there are these 10 crises, so today I will tackle 3 and so on. So you form your day according to your mission or your vision. And motivation comes from following your vision and accepting that there will be good and bad days. You see, never think. There is no such thing as anyone reaching success in a straight line. It is always in cycles. So you have good days, you have bad days. But whenever you have bad times, that is the time you reflect where you've gone wrong. It's a time for correcting your mistakes. It's a time for analyzing, your mistakes and then correcting them and then working hard to remove them. So anyone in the world who has succeeded in any field, he has always gone through these cycles. And the success is not how you cope with the good times. It's when you're down, how do you cope with the bad cycles. So how high you will go depends on how well you deal with the bad moments.
So you've always been considered a fashion icon.
Fashion icon?
Yes, you have. And these days, everybody's talking about your classes. So how do you plan your wardrobe?
Look, until I married Bushra Begum, I had once done shopping. I think it was in 1987. Why do I remember? Because I was touring England at the time and Pakistan TV, and so this boutique, Italian boutique, said, look, if you wear our suit, we will give you so many of these suits. Those suits lasted me for 20 years. Okay? And I never go shopping. And then, ever since I decided to wear shalwar kameez, my life became easier. Because I never had to worry about designer clothes or anything. And so, and I used to, wear any shalwar kameez, the first I used to wear. But who has changed my wardrobe is Bushra Begum. It's she who has actually, now, she chooses my clothes, she knows what shalwar kameez to wear, and so on. So she's the one who dresses me since the past 4 years. But before that, I promise you, the first thing I used to see, I used to wear.
What is the secret to your vitality and your fitness? I think everybody would want to know that.
It is throughout mankind, throughout human history, there are only two ways for you to be fit. Watch what you eat and exercise. Anyone who wants to have a better quality of life, I don't mean long life, I mean better quality of life, because you can live long and live a terrible life. It depends on these two things, and both together. What do you eat and how much exercise do you do? Because you see, the human body, Allah has made this human body is, only Allah could have fashioned the human body. And what is it? The more you put pressure on it, the better response. So if you starve yourself, fasting, I get my fittest when I'm fasting. Why? Because when you're fasting, the body is responding to there not being enough food. So the immunity system in the body, Allah has created our body such that immunity system comes into play. And so it fights, the body then fights hunger, body fights, if you put it under stress. When you exercise, you put it under stress. So it then responds to that. The moment you stop putting it under stress, the body decays. This is how it's been made. So there's a verse in the Quran that we were made to struggle. Humans were made to struggle. And you achieve how much you struggle. So therefore, and there's another verse. There's a saying of the Prophet that seek knowledge from the cradle to the grave. Now seeking knowledge means you're striving all the time. That's how you learn knowledge. It doesn't mean reading fun books. It means seeking knowledge. So the mind responds to that and it stays alive. And so, you find people at 60 years old, suddenly they retire and they age because the struggle goes out of their life. So, so the critical is, short answer to your question, the more you make yourself struggle, body and eat properly.
A message to people of Sunday, who follow Sunday, and the youth of Pakistan. What is the message to them?
That there is I keep repeating this saying of Maulana Rumi in my speeches. He said, Maulana says, when Allah has given you wings, why do you crawl on the floor as ants? So all of us have great potential. And because, we don't strive, we don't have big vision, we don't have big imagination, we don't have big dreams, and then we don't struggle, we end up sort of, just like animals. Because animals come in this world, eat, drink, produce children and die. But humans have a much bigger purpose. and Pakistan is a country with great talent, great resources. Allah has given us great resources, but we unfortunately have failed ourselves because neither have the people tried to change the destiny, except now I see a big change amongst the youth. Because when youth becomes non-political, when there's no difference between them and animals. Because human is political, because human stands for justice. You know, as Aristotle said, that if there's injustice in society, everyone will take part in politics and oppose injustice, except two types: the selfish and the timid, the cowardly. Only these two types. Because either you think of yourself or you're too scared to stand up to the powerful. And that's how society decays. Because the majority of people are selfish and cowardly, the society decays.